Like a wave.
Sure. Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, I want to say a very warm welcome to Ranger Ellen. Ranger Ellen, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We are at the Community Nature Center, which is just across the street from Abaya Judd on the north side. You've probably driven past it.
Dropping your kids off at Granite Mountain School.
Or even just up Williamson Valley Road and you've seen it so many times.
We're secret.
You don't really know it's here. Yeah. And how many acres is it?
18 acres.
So it's like once you get in here, like, oh, there's not a house forever.
Nice.
Except the guy
trails
with the chainsaw who's gonna make some noise at some time.
You know, we're just really embedded in our community.
Very much so. Very much so. So today, you guys are going to get to learn about Ellen's background. Did she go to college? Did she not go to college?
Was she born in the woods? Maybe.
Yeah, we're going to find out some really good stuff, and then she's going to talk about her current teaching job, as well as about the Community Nature Center and what all happens here. That's ultimately what it's all about. But before that, you're going to get to tell us where you were born and raised. Let's dive right in. I want you to set the context for this. Will all make sense once people know what's going on in your life.
Okay, well.
Go for it.
Well, I was born, try and take a guess right now. I'll give you a clue. It's the accent.
You told me. I would have guessed Wisconsin, but
that's, as a Minnesotan, that is cruel. You know, we don't associate with our fine neighbors over there unless we're going across the border for some beer cheese soup.
Okay.
Then we'll head that way.
Okay.
Yeah, but born in Minnesota,
right.
In southern Minnesota, in a town called Northfield, appropriately Minnesotanly named a Northfield.
Okay.
It's right in the corn, and I grew up with a family that got me outside a lot.
Okay.
And that was really where I think it all came from.
The kickstart.
That was a kickstart. Okay. My dad is a environmental policy lawyer, and my mother is an English professor. So I kind of had a bit of a teacher and a bit of an environmentalist in my family growing up, and we'd go on backpacking trips everywhere and playing outside.
In-state, out-of-state, everywhere?
Out of state mostly. Minnesota, camping in the cornfields wasn't too good.
Well, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah. Up to the boundary waters sometimes, it's a quick paddle to Canada if you can get that in there. Okay. Yeah. But all over the country we did a lot of stuff in the mountains, hop in the family van and go. Yeah. That kind of thing. Pretty minimal.
That's all you need.
It's all you need. It is.
It is amazing the stuff you see people with on a road trip, and you're like, you didn't need that.
Just, I think some people take it as the transition, and when you get used to it, you transition a little more, you need a little less. But my parents were like, point. No, we're not bringing anything. Like, I had tiny acorn people, and I would have to make them live in the rocks, when you're doing your little imaginary play as a child. Mine was like, well, what do I have today? Some sticks. Yeah. Gonna make that work. And
as you and I talked about beforehand, that's really healthy for kids.
It is. It is. I mean, it's, there's this really fascinating. Hey there.
Are you being interviewed?
I sure am, but if I see a bird, I'll let you know. Is that you out there with your Owl Hawk license plate?
Okay.
Oh, that is awesome. I admire that.
I've only seen that in Churchill, Manitoba.
Well, have a wonderful evening. Hope you saw some birds.
You get one female mountain bluebird.
Ooh. Nothing like
it. I love it.
Not a lot. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah, see you, Earl. Yeah, there's some good birding out here. Side note, if you're a birder, come check out our little pond. No, but really, it is really, really good for kids. There's this theory by an architect called his name's Simon Nicholson. He came up with a theory of loose parts. And it's basically, it started as a theory for his architectural students, but the degree of an inventiveness, like the degree of how creative you can possibly be, is directly correlated to the amount and diversity of the parts you're given to work with. So what has the most diversity of parts in the world?
Nature?
Nature. No leaf is the same. No rock is the same. You will never find an identical
Just last
item.
night, my 6-year-old Lizzie said, Daddy, no zebra has the same stripes. And I'm like, yeah, and no animal, no matter what type it is, has the same.
And what a great metaphor too when we're talking about people and how to be inclusive of everybody. Like, no one's the same.
No.
We're all different, and that's what makes a rich and diverse ecosystem.
Could not agree more.
It's so wonderful. I think nature gives us not only easy lessons on all those topics, but it builds your body and your brain and all of that in such a natural way because they're so intertwined being out here.
Yep.
You know, so that was what my parents thought, at least, and that was back before the science.
I think you still think it.
They were kind of taking a guess at it, but I've done a lot of research. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, they were I don't know, they were just like, just put them out there. Don't come home. You're a little loud.
Yeah. Keep playing.
Keep playing. It's not dark enough yet.
What are one or two highlight camping trips or vacations that you would have been on?
Yeah, that's, going to the Boundary Waters was always pretty key.
Okay.
That's the northern Minnesota. There's basically more lakes than land. So you're traveling by canoe, and then you get to a portage. You put your canoe on your back, and you hike over to the next lake, and then you keep traveling by water. So we did a lot of that growing up. Yeah, canoeing and portaging and singing old, the songs of like the fur traders and things up in north. It's a very
How many
folky
brothers
life.
and sisters?
I've got a little sister.
Okay.
Yeah, a real smart one. She's great. And she's just moved out to Colorado. She's been a Vermonter for a long time, but she's working on her doctorate there.
Good for her. In?
I believe it's ironically has something to do with disease epidemiology and looking at the transference of diseases between animals and people. Her last thesis was on the Lyme disease and ticks. So a great time for her to be doing her research.
Riveting stuff.
Yeah, she's Laura. If you're listening to this, I'm so proud of you.
We love you, Laura.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So yeah, we did a lot of that. A lot of going out. Went out to the Bighorn Mountains, Black Hills in South Dakota.
I've heard great things about that.
It's so good. Everyone's like, South Dakota, is that Fargo? And you're like, no. Fargo, North Dakota, totally different place. It's fine. Sorry, Fargo. And but South Dakota, those Black Hills, big lakes. And I think that's where I really got into climbing too. Just clambering around on the rocks as a kid. And then coming out here for college, I was seeing the Southwest. It was like, oh, I'm never going back. Never going back.
So, when did you decide to come to the Southwest for college?
Was for college, yeah. My father thought about going to Prescott College back in the 80s when, it was known as the Harvard of the West. Oh, yeah.
I've never heard that.
I'm not going to dispute that but there were rumors, and so he never went, but he was always like, I'll be a park ranger. The irony, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Went and became an environmental policy lawyer instead, and he was telling me about Prescott College when I was looking at colleges, and he's a big fan of road trips, so I think part of it was that, I get a road trip. He's like, we really need to check it out. Like, we really do. I was like, okay. Yeah. So, and my best friend too, she is like, we've been best friends since 4th grade, and her and I, she was looking at Prescott College, and I was like, okay, best friend's looking at it. My dad says it's not that bad, but you're a teenager, so you're like not really counting what dad says.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And so we drove on out, and it was such a beautiful day, and it was just, driving through the canyons, coming on down from Page and on in, and I was like, I feel this. This is where I want to be. Yeah.
Right.
And that was about, let's see, that was a while ago. 2010. 10 years ago.
All right.
So I've been here
so
about a decade.
Went to Prescott College.
Went to Prescott College. I got my undergraduate in environmental education.
Okay.
It's an awesome program. I highly recommend everybody checking it out.
All right.
And I then paired that with also, surprisingly, a minor in dance and arts. I was just really into trying out creative ways of teaching and learning. Originally, I had this big idea of working in physical education in schools and creating like alternative physical education programs so they could do sports, but they could also do, yoga or trail running or mountain biking, integrating like a lot of different ways to experience physicality. I'm super popular.
Yeah, obviously.
And I see Grayson's coming up too.
Hey,
more dogs out and about. And so that kind of was my journey there, and then I started teaching for a while. Hey there. Hi, Rain. Hi, Cody. Hi, Grayson. Happy walking to you all. And worked for a little bit at Skyview School, was a substitute teacher for a while. Then I moved into doing professional development for early childhood educators. So I worked for the Center for Nature and Place. It's a grant-funded institute within Prescott College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we did...
Yeah, what did you do?
I know, that's a
what
lot
goes-
of words for like a thing. We did,
Okay.
mostly we did workshops and conference presentations and trainings for early childhood educators. So early childhood is birth through 3rd grade. And it's where, in those first 5 years, 95% of your brain development is happening. 95%. So much brain growth.
This is all so key, guys, because it's all going to come back to what happens right here.
Yeah, it really is. And
I
it's
love
just,
learning. I love learning about this stuff.
I love
get
talking
so
about this
excited.
stuff.
Well, good.
I feel like, you know, it's fascinating. There's so many reasons to invest in this kind of work. Like there's this guy, James Heckman. He's won the Nobel Laureate of Economics or something like that for this idea of the Heckman curve, which basically showed that dollar for dollar investments, the greatest return starts in prenatal years, and every year after that, that return decreases.
Makes sense.
Because your brain, the ability neurologically to change your brain, to learn things, you know, to get better at doing a task, learning a new language, gets harder. It really does. And so when you want to invest in healthy
I'm only
communities.
37. It definitely gets harder.
Oh, yeah. I feel it, too. I'm around the kids, and they're just, like, picking it all up left and right.
Oh, sponges.
Sponges. So it's really cool. Unfortunately, early childhood is still one of our most underappreciated and underfunded and generally just under-resourced parts of education, and it's really the most impactful. You know, they can tell from how many words a child knows or how much they're read to, you know, at ages 2 or 3, how they're going to do in high school, you know, if they're likely to graduate from, go to college, graduate from high school. It's so, read to your kids, you know, take them outside. It's so important. And so I know that having like my privilege in my life to have those experiences in my childhood, it's really important to me with deciding what I wanted to do with my degree. And so when I went back for my master's, that was really the focus of it, was that equitable access and making programs that are outdoors or for kids inclusive. That was really key. Because outdoor stuff, you know, a lot of us, camp is really expensive. We can't afford to go.
Right.
For a lot of us, you know, having a school that does really experiential, fun field trips and things might not be in the budget of our schools.
Correct.
So really all of this kind of came from that story of what are our most free and accessible and inclusive spaces, and it's like our public schools and our public lands. You know, if we really want to reach everybody, that's what's really
a great place.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
did you go to Prescott College for your
did.
master's? Okay.
Yeah. So I have a master's in education with an emphasis in environmental education.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really where my focus is. You know, environmental education is this fascinating field. A lot of people think about it as this like 1970s environmental movement. Everybody read Silent Spring and then they all wanted to go to camp kind of thing. Yeah, but it's actually, when you really think about it, it's this relationship to teaching outside about the world that you're in and integrating that into whatever you're learning and doing, you know? So when you think about humans and the humans that survived for tens of thousands of years, those are the ones who are really good at environmental education. They were able to say, hey, if you go here this time of year, or you know this about this bird, or that you'll be able to do all these things. So it's, in my belief, it's the oldest form of education, is environmental education.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that we see that when we get kids out here who struggle in class, or who may feel disconnected from some of the topics that are learning in school, that every single kid finds a way to thrive out here and like finds a way to navigate. There's just a little bit more space, you know. There's that quote, you can't bounce off the walls if there aren't any.
Right.
So I think that
yeah, there's a whole lot more latitude out here for kids to find their spot, if you will. It makes sense. There's not nearly as many spots in a classroom.
No.
Yeah.
And they're like, it lets them, you know, let them fidget. They want to pick up a stick and dig in the dirt. It's okay. You know?
Please do, actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, please do. Because there's some microbes in that soil that help boost your immune system.
Yeah.
And if you want to just gaze off into the distance and zone out, that's okay too. Because we're seeing massive increase in the rates of myopia, nearsightedness, and that's because, you know, we're spending so much time indoors and so much time in front of screens that we're not actually using our eye muscles to look at long distances. You know, they're getting weaker, and that's causing...
Crazy.
Yeah, it's really
It
wild.
makes sense.
It makes so much sense. And then just going for a walk can help you just once a day,
Yeah.
looking out your window more often.
Yep.
You know, it's the same as the research come out about people healing faster in hospital rooms that have windows. And there's so much we're still just uncovering.
Yeah.
But if we really think about it, like we really think about humans and where we came from, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense.
This isn't rocket science.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
I research it to get some statistics to back it up, but we all really
I think
know that.
intuitively have that sense. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. All right. So before we dive fully into Community Nature Center, you are currently teaching. Actually, tell
Yeah.
people, like, what do you do right now, and then we'll get in. Let the Community
Yeah.
Nature Center be the last part that we'll spend a bulk of the time on.
Cool. Yeah. So I wear a lot of hats.
Okay.
I like to wear a lot of hats.
You're not
It's
wearing a hat
stylish.
right now. That's
It's
ironic.
weird. You know, anyone out there who's like, "Is that Ranger Ellen?" They'd know
That's so funny.
because I'd have the hat on.
I was able to do it, guys.
Found me without the hat.
Yeah.
But those are just really different ways in which I feel I can kind of pull things together and make an
Okay.
impact. So one of the things I do is I teach at Prescott College. I teach environmental education classes there, and I'm now directing our Prescott Creeks and Watershed program, which is amazing. It's this program started by Doug Humes in 1970 something.
Okay.
I'm going to get the number wrong.
Yeah.
It's basically 40-something years
Yeah.
of 125th graders going outside for 6 field trip weeks every single spring, and the Prescott College students have the chance to be teachers and run this program. So they do training on local ecology, trainings on, you know, local history, and they
Okay.
weave that together into running and leading field trips and a camp overnight up at Mingus Springs Camp.
Gotcha.
And that's been happening every single spring
Holy cow.
for 40-something years. Yeah, most folks out there
Just
listening to
keep
this probably
talking.
would
I'm just
do
gonna
it.
check the camera, but just keep sharing
Yeah.
that all that stuff.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, it's that's one of the programs we run. I teach fundamentals of environmental education as well. I've taught our environmental educator certification program, and that's really important to me because I think that when you're working in pre-service, you know, you're working with educators who are going to be the next generation of teachers. I know people are like, "You're that." I'm like, no, really. Now I'm already handing off the baton. My students are just fantastic humans who care so deeply and really want to make a difference in the lives of young people. And so working with pre-service teachers in environmental education who want to have different careers, that's one of the things that I do at Prescott College to make a difference. The other thing is that
That's really cool.
it's great. I mean, there's this whole idea I have in my head that maybe working with teachers are the greatest people out there. Shout out to every teacher in the world right now. I know how hard you're working.
Yeah.
And 2, being able to help teachers and get more teachers out there. You know, education is one of our most powerful things that we can have. You know, it's how we make the difference, the decisions we make in our lives, you know, how we can activate parts of our lives or
Yep.
let that stop growing. And so working with college students keeps me on my toes. You know, they keep me updated, they keep me recent, they challenge me, they make
Heck
me
yeah.
think in new ways. So I love
Yeah.
teaching college students. 1, because then I know that each one of them is going to go out and reach hundreds of young people.
Yes.
And 2, like, learning is the best part of teaching, being a learner forever.
That's well said.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that's why you do this podcast, right? You get to learn
It didn't hit me till I was like 26 that I actually really enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And now I just can't stress just being a lifetime learner.
Yeah.
Every day, just keep learning.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's so good. I mean, push-ups for your brain.
Yes.
You can't let just like, you know, sometimes learning's uncomfortable too, or things come up.
Of
And
course.
that's the same as when your muscles are hurting
I was gonna say,
after you work
that's
out.
a good sign.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keep working it.
Yep. Keep working it.
So I do that. I also am on the board of directors of the Arizona Association for Environmental Education.
Okay.
That is the state affiliate of environmental education for the country. So
wow.
we have a North American Association for Environmental Ed, and every state has an affiliate. We run the statewide environmental education conference. We do professional development for teachers or park rangers or game and fish folks or anyone in formal education, non-formal education, non-traditional education, educators who work with all sorts of populations. They come and gather for our statewide conference. They come and do professional development. And they also just have a professional association to get together with other folks and say what's working, what's not.
Totally.
And boy, with COVID, that has been
a game changer, I'd imagine.
We had calls. We were doing calls once a week. Just hop on and say, what's going on? What do you need? People are coming up with all sorts of cool things. They're like, oh, I'm doing these videos, and hey, I've sent home boxes to each family that I work with. And so that's our professional association. I mean, if you have a chance to check them out, they do really, really great work. If you're an environmental educator, I think you might be.
I'll put that information in the description along with everything you talk about.
Cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do is I'm on the board of our Greater Prescott Outdoors Fund.
Okay.
So some more Greater Prescott stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just like this. Our Greater Prescott Outdoors Fund is a collaborative fund for the Arizona Community Foundation, and we do a ton of funding of community events here. So one of the main ones, I mean, people know our summer concert series.
Absolutely.
A lot of folks come to Earth Day. So I direct the Children's Earth Day events downtown on the square. Yeah, if you've ever come down with your kids.
It doesn't ring a bell?
Oh, we have like 5,000 people a year on Earth Day. And this year it was set to be one of the biggest. But as we know, Earth Day had to go on pause because it was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's my favorite holiday.
Well, then the 51st anniversary is going to have to be.
I'm going to have to party just as hard because Earth Day, that's my favorite holiday for sure. I've never met anyone else who feels the same about that, but you can all, you should. It's great. You should. We do, like, there's face painting and mural painting and arts and crafts, and we bring the whole nature building site with tons of blocks and stumps and pine cones, and kids build huge things and touching field tables and learning. And there's 47 different organizations that come down with their booths and line the streets. So.
Wow.
Earth Day, Prescott takes Earth Day seriously. Our mayor released a proclamation for Earth Day. They declared Earth Week. It's pretty
awesome.
This is a town that takes their Earth Day seriously.
I agree. I mean, it's one of the reasons I moved here. I just always use the word outdoors, but absolutely.
It's the same thing. We're all talking about the same stuff. We're like, I'm a recreator. I'm an outdoors person. I'm a nature enthusiast. Like,
and actually, I would honestly say that before I moved up here, I've always wanted to spend more time outdoors. It just we all know it does amazing things for your brain and for your heart. And so one of the things with having young kids, Emily and I are like, well, Prescott gives us the opportunity to be outdoors more. And then the more I learn about this area, oh my goodness,
more birds, you know.
Literally. I mean, just talk.
We got some hikers.
Good.
Oh, hey there.
Hey, little hiker.
I'm going to get a quick smell.
Yeah.
I'm going to look pet. Hey there. You should definitely have a leash on, little friend.
Enjoy your walk.
Hi there. Hi. Have a good walk.
Hey. Come on, Diesel. Hey, dog.
Looks like Diesel might be joining us for the interview. What you doing, Diesel? Oh, there you go. Gotta go for the old pretend treat trick.
A rookie.
Yeah. That's my dog right there.
That's hilarious.
Park ranger life.
Yeah.
In another situation, I may have to park ranger that.
My last podcast was with a retired park ranger.
Really?
Yeah, so a tangent. I am fascinated by retired people because of their stories.
They're doing so much,
I love story.
Yeah.
And yes, his 30 years, like, I saw everything from littering to murder. And it was at that point I was like, hey, Greg, would you be interested in being on my podcast? Because those stories, I love it. So
you see some weird things. And I've only been doing it for a little while here, and already had a lot of strange encounters.
I bet you have.
Obviously, as this is a public podcast, we won't dive into the details. I still live here. But after I retire, we'll have another one. We'll lay it all out.
Yeah, okay, good.
That's
yeah. So you were talking about some of the community stuff that you are,
Yeah.
or kind of the Earth Day and
A lot of different
Yeah.
hats of those different things that
Yeah.
I do. And now what I'm doing on top of the
Mhm.
teaching and running those different programs for those different groups is that I'm the education director for our community nature center.
Okay.
Yes. So
Give
this is
me a good less than 1 minute snippet of what the community nature center is. That way I have at least a solid clip that people will have a good sense of what you have.
that is
And then we'll dive into the rest.
that's hard to say. Okay. It's such a story. It's such a story because it's so much history. So the Community Nature Center on a very baseline is an 18-acre open space preserve of the city of Prescott, located at 1981 Williamson Valley Road. And you can come on out here any day, 7 a.m. to sunset,
Okay.
and go on a hike. You can bird. You can ride your bike. There's a little pond. There's a nature play area for young children here.
Okay.
It's right on over there by the cabin. And it's basically, in its most mellow sense, outside of the programs, just a open space preserve.
Okay.
So what's really interesting about it is that this actually was started in 1974 when Prescott Unified School District bought this property and was going to put in sports fields.
Oh, how ironic.
How ironic. So if anyone has been here or taken a look around, the place is entirely covered in granite boulders. So I don't know what was going on when they bought it,
Yeah.
but I think they took a quick look at it and were like, so never mind about that.
Okay.
And so the amazing first education director of the Nature Center, Dr. Henry Dahlberg, was like, let's turn this into a nature center.
Okay.
And actually, Prescott Unified School District was one of the first public schools in the entire nation to own and run and operate a community nature center. This was PUSD's property.
Yeah.
This was PUSD. They came here and they had school outside. The teachers all used it for different classes. They
Yeah.
had field trips. They had programs nonstop. They had gardens. This cabin here, can they
Yeah.
see the cabin?
A little bit.
A little bit. If you squint at that, that was built in 1976 by the high school shop class.
That is so cool.
What a cool shop class problem. They were given this. They're like, let's make a cabin.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out. They sourced the materials. They did all of it. And to this day, that thing is watertight, super sturdy. We
What
keep
a
all
shop.
of our educator materials in there.
Okay.
And we've got Wi-Fi now, which was a big upgrade for the cabin.
Yeah.
But that was just a school project. They're like, here, solve this. Let's do this. And they learned all those tools, all those things. And that's kind of, I feel like, what the Nature Center has been about and why it's a community nature center is because it's really that integration of the whole community.
Yeah.
So from 1976 to 2005, PUSD ran and operated a community nature center. They had several education directors, and their last education director was actually Nicole Truschell, who ended up founding the Highland Center.
Oh.
Yeah, so
I really want them on the podcast.
They're
as
so
well.
cool.
Oh, of course.
You should totally talk to them.
Pretty much everyone here is really cool.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I'll give you their numbers. They're great. And so they got their launch here. They they leased the land for a few years from the city because the city purchased it in 2005 to become the open space preserve.
Gotcha.
The school district, as we all know, was having a hard time. No Child Left Behind, other things that were happening, and couldn't finance the nature center. So the city's like, this space is so incredibly beautiful. It should not be developed. No. And we have plenty of developments here. We do. I'm not like anti-development, but there's some spaces that really do deserve to be set aside. Those green spaces
that don't deserve to be built on.
Yeah. And those are green spaces. They're good for our health. They're good for our wildlife. So the Highland Center launched. They finally got their amazing property on Walker Road, and so now they're out there doing it. And since after that, the Nature Center got kind of quiet.
Okay.
You know, it's like we said at the beginning, a lot of people don't know it's here. It's kind of secret. You come out here and you go for a walk, you can have it all to yourself still. Probably shouldn't say that.
Would surprise me. Yeah.
It'll get busy.
I'll edit that part out.
It's the best kept secret, as all of our little dog walkers say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so when things started up this spring with COVID and the schools closing and all of that, I basically realized that I had a skill set, I had time, and I had a way I could help my community.
Okay.
So I reached out to our Parks and Rec and said, what if I could help some teachers host classes outside here? Then they can...
A little relief.
We know that obviously social, emotionally, you're less stressed outside. You're able to focus more. You naturally just produce less cortisol, those stress hormones. Like, it's just in that sense, a much better place to be. But also, as the data was coming out, we found out that it's 18.7 times less likely to transmit a virus outside versus in an indoor environment. So what we began thinking is that not only is this awesome, but this is a lot safer.
Yeah.
And knowing that, whether or not it's affecting children more, but we know that all those children have families,
Correct.
all those children have grandparents, and regardless of any of that, if we can help emotionally, we can help them move their bodies because they've been on screens all spring, then let's see what we can do. And so I approached Parks and Rec. I'm Henry Dahlberg, the original first education director and founder of this site. Henry Dahlberg and I met. Okay. Now we're great friends. He's fantastic. Been caretaking the site ever since.
Okay.
And he introduced me to Kelly Tolbert, and she is our... You've got a towie on the ground, a little towie. It just hopped across the path. Sorry.
I just don't see it yet.
It's in the shrubs.
Is that what that noise is?
Yeah.
Okay.
They dig. They
dig.
dig.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They do actually I call it towie twerking. But it's like a little dance they do, and they put their feet in to dig, and they pop their butt up while they do it. It's, anyways, if you're into birding. And so we just started having those conversations, and Kelly Tolbert, who is the recreation coordinator for the city of Prescott, was like, we need to help our schools. And she took that to Joe Baines, our director of our recreation services department. And Joe Baines was like, we need to help our schools. I mean, I have never seen so many, the whole department was like, yes, let's help our schools. We have these spaces. If they want to learn outside, if they want to have that, they came and hooked up Wi-Fi for the students so they could use Chromebooks here. They formalized this intergovernmental agreement between the schools and the city, and things just took off. It was amazing. I mean, as anyone who's worked in education or in city governance or in anything like that knows that things can be slow.
Absolutely.
They can be bureaucratic. There's a lot of hoops. It's not necessarily the people, but it's the hoops in place.
Correct.
And everyone just jumped in.
Got on board.
I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about it because
Yay.
It was like, 100% free. Let's get our public schools, our public land, let's bring it all together, and let's get these kids outside so they can be safe and they can keep learning. And they don't have to be plugged in the whole day. So that took off, and now long story short, we did a lot of site amendments. We fundraised our butts off trying to get enough stuff to have supplies for the kids. And now we have 160 Granite Mountain STEAM students here every week. We have an emergency care program we run through the school district, so kids who don't have somewhere to go during hybrid or during online school time, they may not have meals at home. They may not have an adult or a safe space to be at home on those off days. We have those kids who come here, so that's 40 other kids every single week, and they're here as well. And now we're having, our BioJud students are coming, and so it's busy. We see over 200 students from PUSD every single week. From the nature center is adapting because it was a very quiet space. I think the birds are still a little stunned by what happened, but it is fantastic. Just laughter and learning and science and writing and thinking and creating and
oh my goodness,
smiling. The kids are smiling. Those first few days were hard. We felt it. You had to kind of relearn to socialize. Did you not, after quarantine, did you feel that too, where it was like, wow, I haven't talked to anyone in person.
Absolutely.
Is this too close?
Yeah.
Is that,
yeah.
should I? We felt weird, and they're relaxing into themselves, and they're making friendships, and they're, especially our kindergartners, I mean, they'd never gone to school. This was their way they started kindergarten. So the closest thing was maybe daycare or preschool if they had it. So there's learning how to share. There's learning how to be around other people.
Exactly.
And so it's been amazing
Yes.
to watch them grow from
So
that.
that's just since the springtime.
That is just since the springtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
This
started
place is,
launching
in
this.
a sense, transformed. I mean, you wouldn't know it by looking at it, but
Rain likes me.
just, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's been unbelievable. I mean, I can't even, we're seeing maybe like 3 or 4 people a day coming out on a little walk here who
Okay.
happen to know about it.
mm-hmm.
There's 200 children, numerous teachers,
Yeah.
amazing organizations. We have 12 different community partners who either donate financially or bring in educators.
Yeah.
I mean, the most important thing for anything that you're doing in the community is to like listen and see what's already there.
Amen.
And
instead
work
of just
with them.
jumping in to try to start something new.
That's a huge downfall. Like in all my time in environmental education, I see folks come in and say, you know what we should do? We should do a program where everybody learns about the importance of trees and da-da-da-da-da. But really, the most important thing to do is to learn what your community needs and respond to that. And
Yeah,
that's
I
the
couldn't
most
agree
successful
more.
programs, is ones that are based around the community need and not
Yeah.
your own agenda. So everything here has been things that have been requested and where
Okay.
we've been like, hey, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can help that way.
Yes.
And that's what happens. So
Man.
it's been beautiful, and people who've been able to just contribute in their own ways, we make a few dollars go pretty far here,
I
as we
imagine.
all know. City government doesn't have a lot of money, and our schools don't either right now, and so we kind of take whatever we can with some
Yeah.
people have came and brought us clay or paint and things like
Okay.
that we use, and that is magical. It's
That-
amazing, every little bit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's,
You're buzzing.
I think I forgot to say that I wasn't coming
I'm
to
just
dinner
shocked
tonight.
that it's only been 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah. And it's,
Just
we're really looking at, we're pulling in a second AmeriCorps worker who's coming in now.
okay.
So we'll have 3 park rangers here.
Okay.
And we have numerous other teachers that come to help kind of balance
yeah.
and maintain this. One of our biggest partners is Gem Environmental.
Okay.
Have you interviewed Eric?
No.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Eric
So I
Welch.
tell every podcast guest, the people that you know that think would like to be on the podcast, please tell them to contact
I
me
will.
or get us in contact,
Yes.
because I'm all about that.
That's how you get to know people here in Prescott.
Oh, it's
Everyone I know is
the best.
some other person who is like, you should meet so-and-so.
Yeah.
Come have a beer with so-and-so.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I
you're
love
doing
it.
this. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Let's do this together. Huh.
Yeah.
It's great. We're working right now with the Yavapai County Community Health Services.
Okay.
They're coming in and doing some healthy relationships and healthy eating with our kids too. And it's so amazing
Man.
too. If I could sum up, it's a little bit cheesy, but the hashtag Prescott Strong that's going around. It's how we're saying like we're
okay.
making it through this.
Mm-hmm.
Like people in Prescott have stepped up in ways that I never could have imagined, being like, is there anything we can do? Or I
Yeah.
love what you're doing. I do this. Does that fit in?
Mm-hmm.
In this community, I mean, I know we're known for our polarities, our differences, sometimes feisty ways. But really when it comes down to it in these communities, people give so much.
Good job, you guys.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't even know you, but I'm so grateful.
That
I'm sure you're giving to someone right now. That's how cool it is.
man.
Yeah.
So a lot's happened here in 6-ish months. What are you thinking now for the next 6, 12, 24 months? I mean, your brain
Yeah.
has got to just be, obviously continuing what you're doing. That's, I would say, the foundation of
Yeah.
what you are about, what this center is about.
Yeah.
But what are, what's the future? What are you thinking? What are some
Yeah.
of things, not some ideas that you have?
Well, it's been just so amazing to see the response from the schools and
Okay.
our Parks and Rec as well, because they really want to continue this, not just in the COVID-19 response way, but in an ongoing
Good.
thing. We have incredible superintendent and assistant superintendent in our public schools, Joe Howard and Marty Reed,
Okay.
who are big advocates for experiential learning
Okay.
and outdoor learning and
Yeah.
all of that. They're like, our kids need this. Let's
Yeah.
give them these opportunities.
Okay.
And Parks and Rec has said, yes, anything we can do to keep
Okay.
helping our schools. So everyone is on board to keep this going.
Great.
And so what I think will probably happen as we move out of doing our emergency care programming for the school district, which has been a huge portion of what we've been doing, is we're going to see more of what also is happening here, such as like our Granite Mountain STEAM program,
Okay.
our Abaya Judd teachers coming over here,
Yeah.
our 6th grade math classes coming here. Teachers are saying, oh, I've got to teach area and perimeter. I could do that out here.
Yeah.
They could be measuring
That-
diameter of trees. They could be
Yes.
figuring out
And yes.
circumference in a
Yes.
place where they're super stoked
Yes.
about it. Maybe they can be a part of a big citizen science project. You
Yeah.
know, some of our folks are working with Nature's Notebook, which is a local phenology program.
Okay.
And you track the changes in the plants over time.
Oh.
And citizen science is this amazing field where kids get to collect data that they contribute to real-world scientists
I was
doing
gonna say.
real-world
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
And they're doing that here. And
Okay.
what we've seen, I mean, even in the past weeks, having 2 more teachers reach out to me, that I think the huge transition of this program is just supporting teachers. Again, saying, what do you need?
Right.
And that's where we're
Yes.
doing it, because
And in their minds are probably exploding, going, "Oh my gosh, I never thought that I could do this and that out there," and before you know it,
and I don't have to do it alone, because that's also a lot of work for teachers. Going to a new spot,
Yep.
feeling uncertain, worrying about classroom management. We have large class sizes. Knowing
Yeah.
you can have some park rangers there with you,
Yes.
saying, you know, I've got to meet these standards. I got this test coming up. I can align your standards.
Yes.
No problem.
Oh
We
my
can do
gosh.
so many standards outdoors.
Oh.
We're in a process right now. I'm partnering with a farm to school coordinator, Sarah Revelle, amazing educator over there.
Okay.
We're aligning every single state standard that can be done outdoors from kindergarten through 6th grade with a specific outdoor activity.
Okay.
So teachers can just choose their standard and choose their outdoor activity and do that, so they don't have to go through the process, because teachers have enough on their
it makes
plate.
me want to dance. That's really neat.
It's awesome. And I think that one thing I've just learned from a lot of my work and a lot of times is that, you know, people always say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, what are you going to teach about? You know, are you going to do pollinators? Are you going to do birds? And really, I say, I'm going to do what teachers need or are interested in. And that's actually pretty strange. Most programs say, okay, here's our field trips, choose from the list,
Yep.
show up, and maybe they're aligned to standards. But when teachers are saying, hey, I've got to do nonfiction texts, like I need my students to do a nonfiction text analysis,
Yeah.
what am I going to do?
Yep.
Can I do that outside? We say, yeah, no problem. Actually, we have
Yeah.
some great texts where they can look on the spread of cheatgrass across a plain and the way in which invasives and native species have impacts on each other.
Yeah.
And come and do that here so
Oh,
that it
man.
has meaning.
Yep.
You know, and I think instead of me saying choose from my list of field trips that I'm going to write and
It's
plan
not your
for them,
agenda, Ranger Ellen. It's
it's
theirs.
not my thing.
And I actually think one thing that's really neat about that is you get huge amounts of diversity. Like you're like,
Yeah.
okay, today I get to do 3 different things, and tomorrow it's 3 other things, and it you never are.
I get to keep learning.
Yes.
Like we said.
Yes. Well, that's.
I love
man.
it. Because, you know, I don't know everything. I try and be like a generalist, but they might ask me, you know, what is the minerals I'm finding in this rock here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a brilliant
Let's
question.
find that out.
Let's find that out.
Yep.
Let's grab some books. Let's
Yep.
talk to an expert. Let's
Yeah.
bring an expert in.
Yes.
And that's that real life, you know.
And that actually brings up something really good, because as things continue to happen here, you're going to be able to find people who are experts, who are probably likely going to go, yes, I'd love to help. And just all of a sudden, you're pulling in people who
Yeah.
have a passion for.
It's so important. You know, I think
I agree.
we can get really in our little towers or our little holes
Yeah.
and say, you know, we're the experts. But even if you are the expert, the amount of learning that comes from interacting with another person, the resources they bring and share, you know, I always think anytime we can have more voices in the room, more voices at the table, then we're building community. We're listening to community. And we're not just a nature center, we're a community nature center.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important here.
I can tell.
It is. I love our community.
One thing I realized we haven't touched on, how did you become a ranger? Well, what's the story behind that?
Or the park ranger
The
get
park
up?
ranger. Well, and how does that fit into being here? Because you've also said there's a couple other rangers who
Yes.
help out here.
Yes. So the city of Prescott has a park ranger program, and you can sign up and go through that program. So that's the program that my job falls under. Currently,
Okay.
I'm paid through the grants that we have to run this program.
Okay.
And then our other staff are park rangers registered through the park ranger program, but they're paid through the AmeriCorps program.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
All
So,
right.
oh my gosh, if you aren't in touch with Arizona Serve or AmeriCorps, they run this show. They have people
Okay.
supporting organizations everywhere.
Wow.
They're amazing. And every single AmeriCorps worker I have worked with, I mean, they just care so much and they're working so hard. And it's all about, I mean, their whole programs are framed in a really broad sense around poverty reduction.
Okay.
But they look at how that plays into something like this, which is when people are healthier, when the schools are supported, especially our low-income schools, Title I schools, when those families are supported and have opportunities like this, all of those things create holistic methods of reducing poverty in a community. And that's just so cool. They're such a cool organization. I just, like, I'm starting to get to know them, and the more I learn, the more I'm blown away.
Wow.
So all of that runs through that park ranger program. So yeah,
Okay.
we do write like park-in tickets and other ranger things. But this is really unique for the city to have park rangers doing education programs. The city of
Okay.
Prescott used to do education programs, but because there was all, you know, we live in the litigation culture, there was a lot of pressure on the city in different ways to being in
Okay.
charge of programs. So this is kind of a trial run for them
Okay.
to say, what does this look like? How would we
Yeah.
do this? And because the schools are involved, you know, it has a lot more support
I would agree.
for them doing it.
Makes
So
perfect sense.
we're trying it out.
Sounds like you're doing a pretty darn good job.
It's pretty good so far. You know, I mean, we trip over our own feet a lot and we accidentally get poked by sticks and things, but we get Band-Aids and we get to show off our cool scabs to our friends.
Well said.
Whatever you do when you're 8 or 9.
Well said.
Yeah. So it's
Holy
good.
cow.
You know, I think there's a whole talk about it, you know, the bubble parents or helicopter parents and things like that. I mean, the fact that we now have a movement in this country for free range parenting, the idea that your kid could like walk to a park on their own or that they don't have to be looked at the entire time. The fact that we have to have a movement about that is really wild. I mean, that's how much
Right.
you know that.
I mean, you talk to our parents and then their parents, like.
Yeah. And with our parents, they were like, get out of the house. I don't want to see you.
Yeah. No,
And
it's
now-
about the opposite.
So I think that, you know, as a community, we're kind of figuring out how we can still give that opportunity to take some risks and try some new things and be outside and rough and tumble and feel the world fully in a kind of human way. We've gotten pretty in our little boxes in front
Could
of our
not
little
agree more.
screens. So I know that out of the Recreation Services Department for Prescott, we're like, go outside, please.
Yes.
Come see. I mean, we live in a place with more access to national forests, to city parks, to open space preserves than most people would only dream of.
Yes.
It's like hundreds and hundreds of miles of trails.
Ugh.
Ugh.
It's unbelievable.
And you don't have to bring anything. You know, you don't have to be a fancy mountain biker. You don't have to
No.
have whatever sorts of shoes. You don't need binoculars. But if you start seeing a lot of birds, you're going to want them.
Yeah, I know.
I know. You should
I
get
know
some.
from experience.
You should definitely get some. Join the party.
So, you know the story I told you before we got started about going out with Eric Moore?
Yeah.
I told my mom that. She's like, what if I got you a pair of binoculars for Christmas? I was like, well, I've never thought about it. Yes, actually.
Do
like, of
it.
all investments.
It's
So,
worth it.
yeah.
Yeah, and just like you can just go out. You know, I think we're also seeing a weird in between generation, at least my age. We were just the start of internet being a daily thing.
Yeah.
You know, MySpaces or AIM or messaging and that social media realm. And people my age, you know, they're parents now too. So sometimes people are like, well, you know, I know there's all this outside, but what am I supposed to do there?
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever you want.
was gonna
Climb
say.
a tree.
Yeah.
Dig a hole.
Yep.
Smash a stick on another stick.
Yep.
Have a sword fight. Don't
Yep.
poke each other. Learn where the end of a stick is and develop the proprioception, the gross motor skills to navigate having a stick.
Yeah.
You know, that's really
Yeah.
important. Our kids actually, we start kids writing so young. We start kids writing before they have all the bones in their hands developed. We don't have all those bones developed by kindergarten. You know, the grasping of pencils and all of that is a huge problem. Not because kids don't know how to hold pencils, but they physically don't have the bones yet.
Yeah.
They have to
Oh my
grow
gosh.
those. And if they're only doing fine motor development, you know, they're only using pencils,
Gotcha.
they're only using screens, they're only doing tiny Legos and stuff like that, they're actually not developing the tendons and the bones in their
They're gonna
bodies.
lose out on.
And those kinds of things, as anyone knows, like tendons, if you hurt a tendon, you know, you can't grow stronger tendons. As you get older, that gets way harder. You can build muscle. What happens is people's muscles will grow stronger than their tendons because they
Gotcha.
didn't.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many things that can happen. It's just like pick up a rock, make a stack of rocks, you know, knock them over.
And the moral of the story is get outside.
Get outside. Get
'Cause there's-
outside.
Yeah, it takes care of so many of those things
Yeah.
in a positive way.
Yeah. Watch some birds.
Yeah.
I was saying that one.
There's 2 more things before we close out.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 2.5. Where does your love of birds come from? Because you and I had the conversation beforehand, and I told you that I'm definitely getting into birding, and so I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of this idea in environmental education that there's those everywhere things you can always talk about, you can always see, you can always teach about. Bugs, birds, you know, lichen, that's pretty much everywhere. Rocks. But so I started just, you know, kind of looking at and noticing birds. And I went to this amazing workshop. It was before a conference. I love conferences, and they are having a pre-workshop on bird language.
Okay.
I was like, that sounds super weird.
Yeah,
I'm
I was gonna
totally
say,
gonna
yeah.
go. I have the 3 hours to kill. It was by this guy named John Young, who has written a lot of stuff about this. But it basically is ways of tracking and listening to birds to understand what's happening in the world.
Okay.
And what's really cool is that my friend who runs a forest kindergarten in Seattle does bird language with preschoolers.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's this amazing way where basically if you understand how birds communicate at a very basic level, alarm calls, you know, baseline calls, feeding behavior, and the way they react to different predators, you can begin to read the forest. And what's so fascinating is that all the other animals are doing this, and cultures around the world do this. So have you, like for our hunters out there, you know, when you're sitting in the woods and you're trying to get closer to an animal and all of a sudden all the birds are like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow," and they give you away? That's what they're hearing. All the other animals are listening to it. Deer react to what the birds say. Rabbits react to what the birds say. You know, and so they've found ways to, birders are looking at how can I know where other birds are, where predators are, by listening to the birds. So anyways, that blew my mind because it wasn't just like a story. It also done a ton of research on this. So there's a book out, What the Robin Knows. It's a cool one to check out. That got me into birds. I started listening to them because I was like, maybe they'll like show me where a mountain lion is or something like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yes.
2 sections left. This is what I call the rapid fire question section. So I'm going to ask you 7 questions. You know the answers to each of them already. It's not a secret.
I do.
We'll see.
Okay.
They're not hard. Are you ready?
Always.
Oh.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
The people.
What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott?
Barley Hound.
What's the number 1 thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
A route called the Waterfall on Granite Mountain.
What is your all-time favorite bird?
All-time favorite bird?
Give 3 then.
I really like Perloxias, which is a bird with an absolutely ridiculous, impossible to spell name.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you weren't a ranger, teacher, person, what would you be doing?
Oh. Exploring the world.
Okay.
Looking at everything.
And last question, what's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
Rock climbing.
All right.
Yes.
Man, I really want to get someone who knows this area for rock climbing on the podcast.
Have you talked to Kevin Keith?
So that That's the name that always comes up when I say it.
There's a lot of people.
Which is a good sign.
You could also talk to our buddy Gabe. Gabe works for the farmers market. Fantastic human and a rock climbing fiend.
I'm pretty fascinated by what I always call kind of our subcultures. And so the rock climbing, the mountain biking, the birding, like there's all these just little things. I love it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm interested in it, and I think a lot of people just wouldn't. I think they may know, but not really know. So I want someone like you sitting across the table, giving it to them.
There's so many climbs here. It's
that's
amazing
what
climbing.
I've heard, I know.
I have to say that's another reason I probably stayed here.
Okay.
Because you can climb granite, basalt, sandstone, everything, all within here. World-class climbing.
Okay.
Everywhere. This place is amazing for it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You could have a podcast where you could sit up a portal ledge, you know, up on the wall. It's like a ledge that you can hook to the wall.
I'm in.
You sit on that.
We'll just hold our mics. I'm in.
We'll put you in a harness, you know, we'll give you a helmet.
Sure.
And then
I'm in.
put the headphones under the helmet.
I'm in. Oh my gosh. Another fun part of the podcast is meeting people like you, and then you get to know what I like, and then all of a sudden you're like, I know a guy who knows a guy, and all of a sudden it's like,
well, now I know what your
now
kid's
I'm so
like.
stinking busy that like I'm not scheduling until January because I have so many people on the podcast, which is great.
It is.
So I'm super excited about
it. You still get time with your kids.
Absolutely.
You should bring them by here. They can check it out.
We now will.
Yes.
100%. To close it out, please let people know how they can get in touch with either you, obviously the community center, and just kind of give people that which they need. And I will also include this information.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for including it.
Mm-hmm.
You can email me at Prescott Community Nature Center at gmail.com. You can also email me at ebashor@prescott.edu. Either one of those works.
Okay.
We do have a website for the Community Nature Center. I made it. I'm not a web designer, so I'll always take your feedback. It's www.prescottcommunitynaturecenter.org.
Okay.
You can also at any time just go on the City of Prescott's Recreation Services website. You can call the Parks and Rec anytime. They'll help you out.
Yeah.
And yeah, come on down. We're here almost every single day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I take a day off on the weekend and go climb, but
Good.
Otherwise I'm here rangering around. So
I have had a blast.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Listening to you, Alan, just talk about I love seeing people's passion just come out. Whether it's mountain biking or being a ranger or owning a business, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's why I like this format. It gives us time to sort of develop your passion.
Yeah.
So
I got a lot of stoke about this. I'm glad you didn't send me down like the research hole because I could go on like, oh my gosh, and this, and did you know this, and actually this, and this. So it's so great.
Another day.
What a rich world to live in, and so many things to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons.
I'm glad you're doing this too, so we get to like learn about everyone else and what they're doing, because it's actually kind of hard.
It is.
We live in little bubbles sometimes.
We do.
I mean, we're in the birding bubble or the educator bubble.
Totally.
Yeah, this helps us pop our bubbles and look around.
It definitely does. So I'm super excited to just basically bring exposure to Greater Prescott and then have people like you share the story of whatever, said organization or business or just some retired person talking about what they did.
Yeah. I mean, that's so cool. We spent, again, tens of thousands of years of learning from our elders too.
Mm-hmm.
Learning from the children, learning together.
Yep.
This format, it's so cool. Did you know you're 22 times more likely to remember something that's said to you in a story? That's what you're doing. You're creating ways for us to learn.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm going to
Thank you.
keep doing it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? The chainsaw didn't go off.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a nice
We had a couple
soothing.
dogs. That was
couple
fun.
dogs. Yeah. Go outside. Go outside.
Yeah.
Look at birds. They're everywhere.
Perfect.
Yeah, look at some rocks, some bugs.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
It will be.
It will be okay.
Okay. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll put up all of the Community Nature Center's information. If you need to get in touch with Ranger Ellen, I will also put her information. A massive resource you are, I can tell. So I hope people just get to pick your brain. Yeah, I'm huge on, and everyone who sat across the table is like, yes, ask me questions, like, because this is what I do, and this is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah,
so,
maybe you want to do your own thing like this.
Exactly.
I'd love to help you.
There you go.
If you see me though, I will always have the ranger hat on.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's me.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And have a great day.
You too. Bye.